Welcome to the Gynarchy Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Kirti Patel. Here we place women's health and feminism front and center where they belong, engaging in conversations that range from the fundamental to the fearless. With insights from expert guests, we aim to break through the barriers of the patriarchy and envision a new world led by the Gynarchy. So let's get started and dive right in. Welcome to the Gynarchy Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Kirti Patel. And today my topic is Matriarchy Now. And my guest today is Farrah Fernando. Farrah is a radical feminist and a contributor to the Matriarchal Times. And she's also the host of Matriarchal Voices podcast. Hello, Farrah. How are you?
Hi, Katie. Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's very different being on this side of the conversation. I think it's the first time that I'm speaking in someone else's podcast. So thank you for this.
Oh, wow. It's your first time. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I really wanted to have you on because you've had me on twice and I really enjoyed our conversations. And, we share this vision of matriarchal future. So I thought it would be fun to talk about it. And this is my last episode of this season because, I think it's a nice way to end as well because, kind of wrap things up and kind of lead me into thinking about the next season and where we want to go. So
I hope I can make it a good one.
So I'm sure you will. I'm so happy to have you. So Farrah, I know that you live on the other side of the world. I don't know actually too much else about you. I'd love to hear a little bit more about you and how you came to, being so passionate about this topic and, working with Matriarchal Times and hosting your podcast.
Interesting question because it's actually a very confusing story from my end. I didn't grow up a feminist. Like feminism is something that's new to me, and feminism only came into my life a couple of years ago when I joined Matriarchy Times. I joined it just as an occupation, and I didn't really have any roots in feminism. And the reason for this is I grew up in an environment where feminism was used as a weapon, and people used to use feminism to kind of insult and to honor you. And the question was always posed in a very threatening way: are you a feminist? So I grew up thinking it was something really bad. And I also was like seeing feminism from their lens, seeing it as something ridiculous, seeing it as something that was kind of a joke. Um, I wish I had a better word for that, but that's just feeling that they gave me. That feminism is just a joke. So feminism is not something you want. Feminism is people overreacting. Feminism is so that was my feeling about it. So I'm someone who normally goes very deep into things and I research a lot of things, but I just skip over this for that part that was ingrained in me from the time I was around 11 years old. So I know there are a lot of creators in this space who have been growing up feminists and who have been fighting this battle for a much longer time than me. And I wasn't one of them, but now that I have joined them, I hope that I can make a difference alongside them.
Wow, that is so interesting. I think a lot of women can relate to that. Can you share with everyone where you're based?
Yeah. So I'm from Sri Lanka. It's in South Asia. It's a very small island. It comes to the news occasionally because even though we're small, we do like some big ridiculous things sometimes. So I,
Yes,
that's what
I know. For a little country, you cause a lot of problems. But so that's where you grew up, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I've always been
Okay.
here. I've lived here
Always
all my life. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, so as I was saying, like I think a lot of women can relate. I have, I'm Indian American, so my parents are from India. They certainly brought some of the culture here. But then as an
Mhm.
American, I also, the anti-feminist rhetoric is everywhere in every culture, most cultures and countries, because it's a way to disempower women. This is the kind of brainwashing that they teach us from a young age, that feminists are ugly and horrible and, a joke, like you said. So, and it will make you disempower you, keep you away from feminism, and which it did for you until you worked for Matriarchy Times. So that's so
Yeah.
interesting to me. And I would agree. I think when I was younger, it's not that I was anti-feminist, but I didn't really think about feminism really, right? And it's not until you experience some things, perhaps working or, in the workplace and discrimination and things like that, and you start seeing the double standard. And you probably did experience that even as a child, but like you said, we accept that as normal, like, oh, well, boys get this treatment, girls get this treatment. And you start questioning things as the unfairness builds up, right? So, did you have experiences like that you now reflect on that perhaps are make you think, wow, that helped to wake you up to the unfairness?
Oh, I think I had many. So I always gave. I was the only girl. Like in my family, there were like people, like not necessarily cousins or anything. Sometimes aunts were also similar in age to us. So in my age level, in my family and my friends, I was the only girl. So there was my brother, and I had two cousins who were boys. So I, being the only girl, I desperately wanted to fit in, wanted to be a boy. And I didn't understand why that was until I started understanding feminism.
Oh,
Because I didn't say that the scales were so much in their favor, and I didn't understand exactly how much preference they got in every situation and how much people often ask, like, if there were no men in the world, what would women do? And
yes.
the number one answer to that question is always we would go out in the night, like on the streets. We would just walk around. So that basic freedom. And so I didn't understand that maybe deep inside me, somewhere where I hadn't explored as a child, I wanted to be free. So that was the only
Yes.
reason that I want to be a boy.
Wow. Wow.
Um,
I mean, I can very much relate to seeing the double standard as a child. And I felt a little bit sheltered in my own family because I was the oldest. And I always say my father kind of treated me like a boy because I was the oldest, I think. And my dad was kind of, I don't know, my mom is just very strong. So I think that's why my dad kind of respects women maybe more, or he has the type of personality that likes strong women, obviously, if he's with my mother. And so I wasn't, I felt a little bit sheltered from our overall culture and overall extended family, where I did see a lot of much more of a double standard. Not that there wasn't the double standard at home a little bit because of their upbringing. Like, my mom did probably much more of the labor and childcare in the home than my father, although he did as well. But in the greater family and the community where I grew up in New Jersey, yeah, there was just so many more advantages to being a boy.
yeah,
Yeah. So,
I
and
know
to,
because I think that the advantages are also we give them the advantages willingly, and I think that's
yes,
another thing
yes.
that
Mhm.
we had to change as feminists and in our lives because there's trying to get towards a matriarchy is seemingly difficult because we don't have all the women on our side yet. There are still women
Yes,
everywhere who are
yes,
willing to give the
yes,
advantages away and think that
yes.
that's fine and that's what they want. But this is where we're stuck, I think.
I know. To your point, I still like it drives me crazy. Like the older generation of women, it's you can't even like I can't bring them to thinking the way we do. And I think it's just so ingrained in them that a good woman is like kind of a servant, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Like they're just so used to serving everyone and putting themselves last and not having the same freedoms. You're absolutely right. So, but I do think that is changing. So the new generation kind of excites me. A new generation of women, which are I feel like very much are demanding equality. Like so and we're making progress. So, I guess since we're talking about matriarchy, I would love to hear your thoughts, how you define matriarchy.
For me, okay, so feminism also brought questions about that definition to me because there are so many types of feminists. And at the start, I was not radical at all because, as you know, I came in from a whole patriarchal mindset. So the natural default for me was to be liberal feminist, where everyone would have the same chances and everyone would be equal and all these kind of things. But then the reason that I became radical was because I understood suddenly that there would be a like not a reversal, but a more logical assignment of roles to people, where women should be making most of the decisions and that men should help them to make those decisions. I don't envision matriarchy as a situation where men are subservient to women. Um, Equal, but with less power.
Equal, but with less power. I love it.
Yeah.
I would kind of agree. I feel like things are only harmonious with me personally, with the man, if he's mostly listening to me.
Yeah.
So,
I
and
mean, just think
unfortunately,
about it this way. The
yeah.
patriarchy gave us our roles and we take over managing households, managing children, doing jobs,
Yes.
doing everything at the same time. And why are they afraid of us? Can't we see that we can do so much and that we
Yes,
haven't
yes.
broken? And they
Mhm.
still think that we are beneath them. So logic has left the conversation.
I agree with you. I think that it's not that men should be subservient or that they're not equal human beings, because feminism is really about equality of all, regardless of gender and sexuality, and it's equal treatment. We have just been oppressed so much, put down so much, and I feel like a lot of the dysfunction in the world is because we're not living as we should. The patriarchy is unnatural, and it causes all these wars, destruction, pollution, harms to women, to everyone pretty much, but particularly women and children. And it causes,
Mm.
people to regard women and children as objects and property, right?
Yeah.
And I feel that the spirit of matriarchy, the motherhood spirit, is to be the protector. The true protector is a mother's, the motherly instinct, and to be fair to all genders, right, and sexualities, that is not necessarily a nature present in only a woman, correct? So I just feel that that is the spirit we should encourage, like of caretaking. And I feel that that comes very naturally as a mother. I am a mother, so I know that feeling. And I feel very much that, centering women, centering children, that is really how society should operate. And if we think in that manner, we will always make the right choices and probably have less of these horrible things going on in the world.
That's so true. Like, I also envision the transition to a matriarchy to have stages. So, at the start, we would prefer that women have more of the power because they naturally have the instincts that we would value in a matriarch.
Yes.
They naturally have the characteristics. They naturally have the not, yeah. So once men are under the direction and guidance of women for some time, hopefully that they can also change the way that they do things, and then it'll
Yes.
be a natural transition. That's what I think.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I feel that right now things look so polarized and we make it such, it seems like a war between men and women. And in a way it is because because so many men are indoctrinated to this way of thinking, but so are women. We just finished talking about how women can be so problematic because of their patriarchal thinking. So you're absolutely
Yes.
right. This transition to matriarchal society means everyone and children being raised in a with these values are going to be better, in terms of the way they think. And yeah, I have a daughter and a son, and I like to think that I am teaching my son matriarchal values. And, I feel he is a wholesome man in development. And so I think that absolutely and I do think right now the people that are less problematic and should lead are majority women, right? So,
Yeah.
and also frankly, it's only fair. Why have men had power for thousands of years? It's okay to hand over the reins to women. So yes, I am very much I think right now, if
Yeah.
you look at who I would like to follow, it's mostly women, right? So we transition to
Yeah.
that, and then the future can be something else. But with but it has to be the matriarchy.
I mean, we're offering the men a break. We're literally telling them, come on, sit down. You can take the weight off your feet and we'll take over for a while and let's see how things go. And they still don't think that that's a good idea.
I know. I love to share that a matriarchy would be good for everyone, including men. Men would have
Yeah.
less of this loneliness crisis, because matriarchal values to me mean like you care about your entire community, you care about all people. There's collaboration, there's respect, there's care for all. There's like a safety net for all. We wouldn't have these great disparities. There wouldn't be neglect of a whole segment of society or the elderly. In fact, we would respect age and experience and wisdom, which I don't feel we do right now. Right now, in the patriarchy, they only respect power and money and, male authority. And that's not fair or right, and they abuse their power, right?
Yeah. I just want to get back to something that you mentioned, speaking about the younger generations being more woke. I wish yeah, but that's
Did you
not the
say the
reality. Like,
younger generation being more woke? Is that what you said?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I agree. I agree.
uh, but it's not the truth like everywhere because in my country, unfortunately, like with our culture and with everything, like it's very difficult for young girls to get into a feminism thinking space. They still
Mm,
have by default, they still have that ingrained, I'm the what do you call it, subservient person to my husband or my better half, and
mhm.
I need to do this, and this is my job, and the kitchen is my job, and like I have to make him
Mm,
happy, and that thinking is very rampant still.
yes,
Even I was
yes.
surprised. Okay, so I'm going for a class, like I'm studying to be an esthetician and hairdresser. So I'm in a
Oh,
class right
exciting.
now with people who are much younger than me. So
Mhm.
they were born in 2005, 2006. And I was very disappointed actually to find out that they are still in that thinking. Like
Wow.
it was the first
Hmm.
time that I managed to meet a whole new generation of people who have just left school. So I thought that maybe things are different because while working with Matriarchy Times, I hear all the news from around the world and how younger people are fighting and how younger people have changed and everything. But and like with all the modernization and with all the technology and everything available, we still don't see a change in mindset like in this side. So I don't know whether the change will be uniform
Yeah,
when
that's
it
really
happens.
frustrating. And I agree. I mean, don't we also we have that here as well. You know, everywhere there is this movement to move women backwards, you know, the trad wife movement, for example, that is brainwashing
Yeah.
women here and everywhere, right, really, because of the internet, that you know, women should want the soft life, which is it's kind of such a joke because it is the opposite of the soft life. Okay. I I think I have a soft life. I work, but it's just mostly for me and my children, you know. And you know, I vacation when I want. I do whatever I want. Freedom. Freedom is the soft life, not serving, you know, and you know, having your man pay all your bills and do making sure you don't displease him. So, but
Yeah, soft life
um
for the
what's that?
soft life for the men.
Yes, it's a beautiful life. That must be why they fight it so much, right? Because if you can find a woman who thinks this way, like these classmates of yours, like it's hitting the jackpot. Like one of the jokes I make is, what a bargain! Even if you buy a wedding ring for $100,000, like that is a bargain. Bargain. You get a lifetime of servitude. Out of that. Like if you paid for all the services in a year, that's what it would cost. Okay. But you get years of all kinds of labor, cooking, cleaning, having your baby, childcare, taking care of the elders, your parents, I don't know, all kinds of things, right? So so while that is upsetting, I agree. I think whenever I get dispirited, I always think about history, right? And we are in the best place compared to better place than women of the past. I can't believe it's just so heartbreaking to think about things women in the past had to go through, right? So I feel very lucky to live now and have the freedoms I have. I know it can be better, especially, you know, for other women. And I think that there's a back and forth, right? The struggle, the fight, but we keep progressing. And yeah, so I like to think of it that way. And I think more young people now think in a progressive, woke way, feminist way than when I was growing up, right? I came to feminism kind of after my own struggles. It's too bad that women don't, it's too bad that we have to learn, they have to keep learning the hard way. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
After everything that everyone has gone through throughout history, there's such a huge chance. I mean, think about the trad wives, like you said, coming on social media. If there were no feminists, would they be even allowed to use social media? I don't think so. I think it would have been only for the men.
That is the best way to point out how ridiculous they are, because these are women who should be silent and in the kitchen making their husbands sandwiches. They should not be on social media. They should not be monetizing. They should not be
Yeah.
getting, you know, showing this lifestyle off. They should be only doing it for their man at home. So, exactly, pointing out that you really aren't a trad wife. You're a social media influencer making a lot of money doing this, you know, and harming a lot of women. They're also, that's misogynistic, and we should point that out as well. Like you're actively harming women, you know. Yeah.
So I'm hoping like through podcasts and having discussions like this, I wish that a lot of people can actually start thinking critically, because I think a lot of critical thinking doesn't happen now. People just take things at face value, and like if you see some new trend, you just hop on right away, and it's like a virus sometimes. Like people
Yes.
just say
Yes.
something and then another 100 people agree with them. It's more than enough to cause a problem. So if
Mm.
people need to really stop and like really look at what's happening around them and really try to understand where it came from and why it's still there.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
I think things will change.
I also, to add to that point, like I also think like what we're doing is how hopefully like your people like your classmates and some of these trad wives, you never know when one of our reels or posts or something will hit them and plant a seed in their head. And so next time and because of course all these women even these women who are professing these dangerous patriarchal ideas, like even they struggle. They're not just, abusing other women with their content and their ideas, but they're also victims. They're also victims themselves. So when they encounter an injustice, that in the silent moments, perhaps our thoughts will grow, and they'll come to this manner of thinking. So I like to think that that's why we do it, right? And it's on the internet forever.
Yeah, I think it's important in another way because you mentioned the word silent. I kind of thought about this. Staying silent is one of the biggest contributions that women give to the patriarchy. When we don't talk about what changed us, when we don't talk about the things that have happened to us because of patriarchy, there's so much shame because things that happen to us through the patriarchy are so horrible, we can't even say them out loud, and there are so many
Yes.
women all over the world who have experiences and they don't want to talk about it. Like even with their close friends, like if you know someone that something has happened to and you ask them about it and they're like, I don't want to talk about it. Why don't they want to talk about it? They're protecting something that they don't understand. So I think silence is something that we need to stop as well. Like talk,
Yes.
say it,
Yes.
even though it doesn't sound normal, just say it because it can help someone else.
Yes, we grow up with a lot of shame about a lot of things, and including the things that are not our fault that are put upon us, like things committed against women. And we see this right now with the Epstein files, for example. Just yesterday, I saw a woman testify that her name was released like 500 times, and none of the perpetrators' names were released. So it's and she's getting abuse for it, for being a victim. So yeah, and I do think though when women come out and talk about the things they've experienced, it definitely helps other women to be brave enough to talk about it and make it more normal to talk about the most horrific parts about living under the patriarchy, that we should shed light on that because maybe that will motivate more people to change, not just accept that this is normal. It's absolutely not normal. The way we live is so abnormal to nature.
I think that's one of the most important steps to bringing a matriarchy in faster. Like when more women start talking about it, when more women start exposing, when more women are not willing to take abuse, when more women are not willing to stay silent about things that happen to them, I think matriarchy will just come in naturally. We won't even
Yes.
have to try very hard. So talking, using our voices, because that's something that even if well, I mean, short of killing women, they can't stop women from talking. So we
That's
always
good.
have a voice.
Yes.
Even if
Yes.
we don't talk, we don't have to talk about it in public. I mean, people don't have to come on the internet and make videos and talk about it. Just talk with your friends. Like
That's a
share with
good
your friends.
point.
See,
It's a
yeah,
very good
see whether
point.
they have something, see whether you can help them. Like make sure that they know that you're always there to listen to them, because I think women, the biggest enemies of other women at most times. And I find that really sad that, you feel like you can't talk to someone else because she will judge you, or you can't talk to someone else because you don't know who she's going to go and tell. Like, be a better friend to the girls in your life and be there for them and help people to start talking. I think that's something that needs to be done.
This is an important message. I think it is so important to say your truth. And I feel very strongly that you actually should be yourself and speak your truth at all times. And if it makes some people uncomfortable or even treat you badly for it, you've discovered that they are not your friends or supporters. Actually, it's a great filter. And women really must be more selective. Okay. I think we are taught to be good girls, grow up to be very polite and nice to everyone. And people expect a certain behavior from a woman, right? They're perfectly fine with men being rude and dismissive and not having time for people. But women, no, they expect women to be givers and acceptors and forgivers. But I like to spread the word. No, you absolutely do not. Unless someone is aligned with your views and supports you and is kind to you, they probably should not be in your life if they are, negative energy and trying to make you feel bad for just being honest, right? And I think that's like, you get better and better at it when you practice. And then you will, it lifts you up naturally when you're surrounded by more positive girls, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing, like we know to be careful about men because they can be so blatantly dangerous, right? That's why so many women don't go out at night, right? But we need to be just as careful with women because we're living in a patriarchy and so many women, unfortunately, are under the spell, right? So it's actually a very small number of women like you and I and other girls, and you can tell right away, right? I think you can tell right away within minutes or a conversation if someone is a girl's girl. You don't want to be spending time with people that are saying anything to make you feel bad, or jealousy is a big sign, or things like that. So putting you down, giving you bad
I
advice.
wish that I wish that I could tell though. Like, I don't think I have that ability to kind of discern whether someone is an ally or an enemy. I think
Well,
it's
I
a big
think
failing of mine. Yeah.
I mean, maybe not everyone. You're absolutely right that some people are very good at wearing masks, and you may not discover until very late, after you have a relationship with somebody that, oh, they're really not my friend. They're actually a frenemy. But whenever you figure it out, it's the time to go. It's the time to block the number. I
Yeah.
guess that's what I'm saying. Sure. I mean, I feel that I can tell quickly now, but did it take me years sometimes to dump bad friends? Yes, absolutely. Over the years, I had to learn the hard way with a lot of people.
Yeah, because it happened even recently. There was a girl who used to come visiting, and like she was the one of the few Sri Lankan feminists that I have met. So I used to
Mhm.
talk with her a lot about a lot of things. I even asked her to come and join me on our podcast at Matriarchy Times, but there was no time to get her to come, so it didn't happen. But then I found out recently that she was going around talking about us behind our backs, like just me and my family and everyone just saying things to other
Wow.
people just to get in good with them. And I was like, what is going on? Like, weren't you talking about feminism with me? Like, what are you doing? So that's what I meant. Like, I couldn't tell at all that she would
Okay, but now
ever be like that. Yeah.
Now you know,
Yeah.
and you don't need to waste your time. You're done. You're done. We don't. I think the other thing is, like, you don't need. The other thing is, I think people would like to have this giant community, and honestly, that's hopefully the case, that we have a community of women that we can be among and support us, and a whole community, men and women, I guess, and families and people, but we're not there as a society, right? There's unfortunately in the patriarchy so many problematic people, but even just one friend, you don't need a lot of friends to start. Okay, even if that friend is online, that is enough. And I learned that one from, I did an episode on domestic violence and intimate partner violence, and my guest, I asked her, what advice would you give to a woman in this kind of situation? And that's what she said, like, find a person you can talk to, even if it's online. And I thought that was such good advice. You have to start somewhere. And from there, you will naturally attract other people, in your circle, and, hopefully build from there. The other thing this reminds me, it's sometimes hard for women to speak out about what they're going through because they may be in an abusive situation, and it is dangerous. Like we live in a time of, femicide, so many femicides happening. And so you do have to be careful. You have to quietly plot, which I think women are good at, and find ways, to escape, hopefully, reach out for support safely and find a way to, look for resources to find a way to become free.
Yeah, I think Matriarchy Times has managed to do that for some people, including myself,
Really?
because we built our community on Discord, and I've never met any of these people in real life, even the people who live in the same country as me. I just know them online. And inside the Discord, you can find so many allies.
Oh, I love
People
that.
you can talk to, people who are there, people who are actually in this space because they want to be there, and we can talk about anything and share any experience. And I think exactly what you said is available there. So I'm lucky in that
Okay.
way because I got that from them. With the introduction of feminism, I got the community. So I was
There
lucky.
you go. There you go. Okay, so people need to go to Matriarchy Times if they need better friends. The Discord. Okay, we'll have to put a link in the show notes. So, just to get back to the topic, like I'm curious like what you think the future looks like. Like what is your ideal vision of matriarchy? Because, you know, I think it's kind of hard to imagine in the modern world, right?
It is. And okay, if you want my idea of a perfect transition, I think it starts with education. It starts with educating women about the true meaning of matriarchy, because as it is, like men and women alike all believe that matriarchy is the reverse of the patriarchy, which is the weirdest thought process.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
can anyone imagine women who have been prosecuted and tortured for millenniums suddenly turning around all of a sudden and becoming just like the men who are torturing them? It's not going to happen. So that's
Mm-hmm.
not, I want everyone to understand that on a base level first, and starting with women. And then I want the transition to include the men. I want them also to be on board with it happening, because I don't want a violent transition. I'm just talking about it from my point of view because you asked
Mm-hmm.
me like what I think it should look
Yeah.
like. So I hope that's not wrong.
No, I
Um,
love this. Please
I
continue.
think
Yeah.
I think that sharing resources in ways that are palatable to both men and women, like without blaming, without, criticizing, without saying, you were like this and you were always like this and this is patriarchy and this is horrible. I think we should talk more about how matriarchy is going to be better. Like, we can
Mm-hmm.
just give examples of, if this was a matriarchy, it would be like this, instead of kind of condemning the patriarchy, because there are people around. I can say this because I was one of them that don't even know the words matriarchy and patriarchy. So talking
Mm-hmm.
about,
Mm-hmm.
like, making videos, talking about patriarchy, sometimes, you'll just be like patriarchy. I don't know what that means. You just scroll past it. But
Mm-hmm.
introduce situations and introduce how it would look if there was a different outcome, how outcomes can be different, and kind of change a mindset, bring all the mindsets to an equal level, and transition in a, like, make the transition wanted, like make it something that everybody wants. And then I think it would be like, that would be the ideal way to switch to matriarchy for me. But
Mm-hmm.
in reality, it might be violent.
It might be
There's
what
going to be a lot of,
violent.
yeah,
Oh,
there's going to be a lot of,
well, I agree with you, though. I feel like whether it's nature or nurture, women are not generally violent like men are. And I don't see, and I think that's sometimes an argument I will hear online is that men say you'll never have a matriarchy because they will just, be violent about it and never and prevent us from ever having power. But I think that it is possible to have a non-violent transition to matriarchy because I feel like it's already happening. I feel like the way in this capitalistic world that this is going to happen is that women holding economic power, and that is already happening. I think more than 50% of the majority of the wealth is going to be in women's hands in the near future. And I think that will help to transition things. People are I already saw something the other day online on Instagram, I think, that brands, for example, are catering more to older women because they are the ones with the purchasing power. So now you see fashion and things like that, trying to sell to older women. You're seeing older models, for example. So I really smiled at that. I was like, wow, again, I'm so lucky to live in this time. Feeling like, wow, I feel like that's showing an elevation and power of the older woman, and that's really what a matriarchy includes, right? Like respect of your elders, particularly grandmothers, and older women with the wisdom who've raised children and grandchildren and helped families and all the men in their lives, like who does the most work and has helped the most people, if not the older women, and so I do think that in this transition is happening, hopefully. And I guess I started writing a little manifesto for myself. I guess I'm going to share some of the visions I have for like what a matriarchy is, right? So
Okay.
yeah, I'm going to take this moment, I think. So one is having reverence for the earth, right? And I know that there are a lot of, there's the intersection, ecofeminist intersection there. But I think very much like, how can we live peacefully, harmoniously without focusing on making sure our planet is well taken care of, right? So that's one. I think women should be central, women and children. I think centering women is centering children because that is, so I think that's a core value in the matriarchy. I think another one is elevating and respecting feminine traits and values. Right now we always talk about how great, masculine qualities are, and we often denigrate feminine qualities. Whereas I think, that's why I wear hot pink. And, I think that the feminine has been really not regarded as highly, but we should, and the feminine qualities in men and women, any gender, really. I think another value is that leadership is given to people who have contributed to society and have demonstrated, through maybe caregiving and experience, of helping the collective, that we should regard them as more leaders versus people who just acquire a lot of power for themselves. And then I also think that leadership should be a collective job, not like an individual, not a king, or even a queen, really. I think that education should be a human right. I think one aspect of the patriarchy is to keep people ignorant, and we need to do the opposite. Science makes our lives better. And everyone should learn about, in my case, the world. And in my case, on my platform, I like to teach women about health and their bodies. And obviously these kinds of social things we talk about. Let's see. I think labor, everyone should be distributing work more equally and to their ability, and not, it should not be unfair. I think right now we live in a time when people are working so much. They have no time for rest, no time to exercise their human creativity and to be joyful, because they're just working nonstop to make ends meet. I'm sorry, this is so long.
No, no, it's fine.
I think all human beings should live with dignity, have their basic needs met, no matter what age. They don't have to be productive members of society. You know, everyone deserves a certain level of care. We need to respect, obviously, bodily autonomy, freedom of choice, and promote consent. Nothing should be assumed, you know, I mean, people's bodies and their lives should be their own. Promoting collaboration and cooperation over domination and violence, which is a patriarchal way. And we want to try to free people from exploitative systems, like, you know, some things we've talked about, or exploitative societies. You know, it
Yeah.
always comes to my mind, like Afghanistan always comes to my mind, for example. And then finally, justice. You know, there should be accountability for people who have committed wrongs, and perhaps ability to make reparations, if that's even possible, you know. So thanks for listening.
I think I would add something to that though. I
Yes,
think an
please.
ideal matriarchy would not have capitalism in it at all. Because I believe that, very strongly believe that capitalism is the reason for the patriarchy still being on top. Like, even if we wanted to change, like to be more nature based, we can't, because we have to earn money to eat and live. So,
Yes, yes.
I think capitalism is something that has to go. And as long as capitalism is there, I don't think that it will be possible for us to fully become matriarchal. So maybe I would suggest that into your
Yes, I
manifesto.
mean, interestingly, that was part of that, my one of the last ones, when I said liberate others from exploitative systems. And I wrote a
Okay.
whole bunch of things, like such as
Okay.
capitalism.
So I was thinking
um,
more of the system where the fat wife, I think that
oh,
was the biggest
yeah,
exploitation that came to
yeah.
my head.
Yeah, no, I meant things like, you know, capitalism, racism, colonialism,
Okay.
heteronormativity, ableism, classism, all kinds of things like that. However, I think that we use capital, like, I guess my vision of transitioning is that we use capitalism to our benefit. At least I think right now, I like to see women with all the, you know, getting more money and power. And then when we have the money and power, I think women are more naturally inclined to things like, you know, establishing a social safety net and raising the living wage and having, you know, childcare available and retirement and, of housing and basic needs for people. So I don't know what the structure of society should be in the future. Like, I know that there are some European countries doing capitalism better. So I would prefer to see something like that versus what we have now, for sure.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if the answer is social, what the answer is beyond that. But I definitely think right now we do not care for our fellow human beings enough. So I would agree with you that right now the capitalism we have is evil.
Yeah. So I'll just brain dump a bit on that. I don't exactly have like a concrete answer or a thought formed about it, but I think yes, capitalism needs to be taken over in order for us to change it. So you're right about the women getting more of the share of the wealth in the world before we can make any changes. But once we get into a matriarchy, I think we will manage our resources better. I just think that everything should be about money. I don't think that people should have money to enjoy a certain kind of life, to have basic needs met, and to, basically right now everything is about money. Like, if you don't have
Yes.
money, you don't have anything. So if in a
True.
matriarchy, there should be things that are free for everyone, and
Yeah,
there
I
should
think
be,
food, food and
yeah,
shelter and
food,
basic
education.
needs, education. Absolutely. I think that
There was
the wealth gap we have is so disgusting. Like, they're like billionaires, there's no need for a single human being to have that level of wealth. It is disgusting. And
Mm.
I think I appreciate people who give away their wealth, like I can think of some people like Mackenzie Bezos, for example. But however, that's
Yes.
not the answer. We shouldn't be relying on people to give away their wealth. We should be appropriately taxing people
Mm.
and having it be a collective responsibility that people have healthcare and food and shelter and clothing and all their basic needs. There should be a certain standard of living for all human beings that we should all collectively pay for. And there should be a top level of wealth, which is reasonable.
Yeah, there should be like beyond a certain point, like the money should be meaningless. Just because you have money, you shouldn't be able to have more things. I
Mm,
think equal equality in wealth also will help. Like everyone gets to enjoy a different kind of life. Like you won't have the capitalist working structure. Like it'll be more farming, more people doing, nature-based jobs, more people, basically caring for the earth instead of stripping it bare. And
yes,
those are big changes, but
it's
that's what
so
the perfect
important.
matriarchy would bring. Yeah.
Yeah, so important to get back to. We have become so industrialized and really abuse nature as well. You're so right. So, Farrah, I think we have run out of time. Let me make sure I don't have any other. Do you have any other closing thoughts to share?
Yeah. So the most important thing that I would like to tell everyone is even if you don't do anything else, at least try to learn the truth. Like
Try to
radical
learn.
feminism,
Sorry, what is it?
the truth about things
Yes.
that are happening around you. Because radical feminism came about as a root cause, like the Latin meaning of radical feminism means getting to the place where the problem is occurring. It's not just surface level. So try to be more critical thinking about your situations and try to be a better friend to human around you. And also, if you have an opportunity to tell a story or tell an experience that will help someone else, please take it. Matriarchy is something that we all need. And I wish that everybody would learn to love feminism because it's truly saving lives, not just for women, but for men as well.
Yes,
So
yes.
get into some kind of niche, read about it, listen to it, and see you on our side soon.
Yes, and I would agree. Feminism and trying to work towards a matriarchal society that benefits all, including men. And yeah, we just need to keep spreading the word and talking about it. So thank you so much, Farah. So what is next for you, Farah?
For me, I guess at Matriarchy Times, we are starting some new exciting projects. One, I don't think we're ready to talk about yet, but it's something to do with feminist research.
Okay.
And we are making a whole team, putting a whole team together to try and give feminist research the place that it deserves. And the other exciting thing that we have is we have a merch line that's pretty new.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Fun.
I, I, yes, we have quite a bit of merch up there. And if there are any feminist creators who have merch that they want to sell, we are more than willing to put it up on our site. So we have already done a few collaborations with other creators. So we have their merch on our site. So that's a space where people can use it like a marketplace for feminists and feminist
Oh,
creators. So
okay.
that's
That
there.
sounds great. Okay, I might have to jump in on that. We'll see.
Hopefully.
Okay, please share where my audience can find you.
All our links on our website at matriarchytimes.org. We are on Instagram, Twitter, we are on TikTok, we are in Discord. We have a community in Discord. We're on YouTube. Yeah,
Okay, so you just put,
we are recently on Substack. So Substack is our
okay,
newest thing. And we have
okay.
our articles and the newsletter is free. And I recommend that people subscribe to the newsletter because we have a lot of interesting news, and everything that's happening around the world basically gets captured. So it just gets delivered to you and you can be horrified along with us.
Okay. We need to be informed. True. So just put in the search bar Matriarchal Times on all of these sites. And then YouTube is
It's actually
Matriarchal
Matriarchy.
Voices.
It's actually Matriarchy Times, and the
Matriarchy.
podcast is Matriarchal Voices. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much for your time today, Farrah. This was fun to talk to you.
Thank you for having me, and I'm glad to wrap up your season.
Yes, thank you. Happy summer.
Okay, thank you.
This is my closing thought for today. Under the patriarchy, we live in a society that prioritizes male power and authority, and that has resulted in an environmental disaster, more violence and war, severe income disparity and poverty, less education, and overall worse health. But in a matriarchy where women and feminine values have greater influence, we would see more care for our earth and for our fellow human beings, men, women, and children. And we envision a world where all human beings have their basic needs met. And also a world where education and science are promoted, and there is overall better health and healthcare for all. So down with the patriarchy and up with the gynarchy. Thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please consider leaving us a review on one of the podcast platforms. This is our last episode for season 4. So I hope you all have a great summer, and I'll see you again later in the year. Take care. Did you enjoy this episode of the Gynarchy Podcast? Know someone else who might enjoy this conversation? Make sure to subscribe and share the show with your friends and family. Find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and just about anywhere you find podcasts. On social media, we can be found on Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok at The Gynarchy. Thank you so much for listening.